Welcome to Inspiration and Transformation from the Banks of the Ganga with Sadhvi Bhagawati Saraswati, an American sannyasi living at the Parmarth Niketan Ashram in Rishikesh, India. Sadhvi is president of the Divine Shakti Foundation, a charitable organization bringing education, vocational training, upliftment, and empowerment programs to women and children. Sadhvi is also Secretary General of the Global Interfaith Wash Alliance and Director of the world-famous International Yoga Festival. Join the musings of an American sannyasi as Sadhvi shares the wisdom and teachings of her guru, His Holiness Pujya Swami Chidanand Saraswatiji.
Welcome everyone to Inspiration and Transformation from the holy banks of the sacred Ganga River in the land of Rishikesh, India.
It depends what you mean by good human being. If by good human being we mean abiding by the 10 Commandments, whether it's the 10 Commandments of the Bible, whether it's what we call the 10 Commandments of Hinduism or a yogic way of life, our yamas and niyamas of the 8 limbs of yoga. I think you could do that on your own. I think when we're talking about everything ranging from thou shalt not murder to thou shalt not commit adultery to truthfulness to non-stealing to all of this, you can do that on your own. That's just a matter of focus and attention, commitment, discipline, niyam. Literally yam and niyam, do's and don'ts, our habits within ourselves, within the world. A guru is not someone who turns us into good human beings, although that's certainly a byproduct. If you find a guru and you weren't necessarily someone who identified as being such a good human being, if you didn't necessarily follow the commandments, certainly a guru will help you do that, but not because a guru is going to give you commandments and hold your hand to the fire of them. Or somehow, punish you if you break one. A guru literally is one who removes darkness and brings light. That is what the word guru means. The remover of darkness, and therefore the bringer of light. That darkness is not a darkness of being a bad human being. It's not that the guru removes the darkness of badness and gives you the light of goodness. We think about ignorance and wisdom much more than good and bad in Sanatana Dharma. People who engage in what we would call bad behavior do so not because they are bad people, but because they're living in illusion. Because they identify as this physical body, as its experiences, as its desires, as what it does, as what happens to it. And when we do that, then we suffer. Because we are richer than some, poorer than some. We tend not to pay attention to those we're richer than. We only tend to pay attention to those we're poorer than. We are more successful than some, but again, we don't pay much attention to that. We pay attention to who we are less successful from. We're constantly comparing, constantly wanting more that we don't have. Constantly feeling that we don't have enough when we identify as this body. I don't have enough. I'm not enough. I'm not pretty enough, handsome enough, rich enough, successful enough, beautiful enough, funny enough, popular enough, smart enough. We're constantly seeing where we fall short. So we suffer. And then we bring suffering to others, whether it's because we become angry and violent, whether it's because we then steal, whether it's because we simply exude so much misery and frustration that we are like walking bad vibration factories, but we bring that suffering then onto others. But that's due to ignorance. It's not that you are a bad person and you need to become a good person. You simply need to realize the truth, that you're not the body, that you are the soul, the spirit, that you are love, truth, consciousness, infinity, perfection. And when you realize that, then you stop constantly looking here and there at who's more beautiful than you are, or who's smarter than you are, or who's richer than you are, or who has a nicer shawl than you have and you want it, who has a nicer looking spouse than you have and you want it, this is constantly, right, how we move through the world. Why can't I have that or have this? That one's so lucky. So what the Guru does is the Guru shines the light of truth, with which we can see the truth of who we are. And when you can see who you are, then you stop suffering. And when you stop suffering, you stop bringing suffering on others. And so the life becomes one of goodness, of joy, of peace, of love, of light. Not because you have become good, or that you're following instructions better, or that you have more willpower or discipline, but because the very nature of how you understand the self has changed. Imagine, let's say you've decided that you are going on a diet and you're not going to eat any more laddus. And you're sitting at a table with friends and you're very hungry, okay? You've skipped breakfast, you've skipped lunch. You haven't had anything since maybe, let's say, an apple in the morning. Now it's dinner time. You're really hungry. They come around with a plate of laddus. You're starving. What do? You eat so many of them. Or if you don't, you are miserable inside, right? You're sweating inside. You want them so badly. And there's this war inside you. Gotta have the laddus. No laddus. Yes, laddus. No laddus. Right? And you're constantly fighting. Now imagine that you had a great breakfast. You had a great lunch. In fact, you even had a great late afternoon, early evening, very healthy snack. Now you're sitting with friends right after your beautiful snack, which followed your beautiful lunch, which followed your beautiful breakfast. Now they come around with a plate of laddus. Now you're not interested. Neither do you eat something that you've committed not to, nor do you have to have a war inside about not eating it. It's no longer a matter of willpower or discipline, or being good or bad. You're full. You literally are full. There is no sense within you of yearning for a laddu because you are full. And this is what the Guru does, is it's not about giving you better willpower or better discipline or helping you follow your, commitments to be good. It's about helping you see that truth of who you are in such a way that you're so full that those things we would consider bad, untruth, violence, murder, adultery, right? It depends which 10 commandments we're looking at. But whatever the list of commandments may be, none of them holds any pull for us. We're not looking to steal. We're not looking to be dishonest. We're not looking to hoard. We're not looking to be violent because we're full. And we're full of truth and love and awareness and consciousness, of light, of wisdom. That's what the Guru gives.
You're listening to OTR-FM, part of the IOM radio network.
Being a radio host on IOM FM allows you to build your show on a rich platform with the power of the internet to fulfill your outreach goals and connect with a very specialized and global online audience, unlimited by time and distance. OMTimes Radio will provide you with web relevance, a recognizable conscious brand, and with the standard of excellence that has accompanied every single
Circle of Hearts Radio is a sanctuary on the airwaves. Join me, Grandmother Alaya, in the circle on Sunday, 2 p.m. Eastern as I share information to both enlighten and nourish your soul.
Hi, this is Christina Ricci with RAIN. Every 2 minutes, another American is sexually assaulted. If you or someone you know has been sexually assaulted, you are not alone. Help is just a call or click away through the National Sexual Assault Hotline. Please call 1-800-656-HOPE, that's HOPE, or visit rain.org, that's RAINN.org.
Brought to you by RAIN and this station.
Welcome back to Inspiration and Transformation. I'm so glad to have you all back here with me.
The law of karma. Yes, it's a natural scientific law. That which we sow, we reap. The seeds we plant, those are the trees that are going to grow in our garden. Those are the fruits we're going to have to eat. It's the law of nature, the law of science, the law of karma. But it's not always quite so obvious in kind of a boomerang sort of way. I hit someone, they hit me back. I tell a lie to someone, they tell a lie to me. Or in a more deeply tragic way, as in the question, someone sexually abuses someone else, then they get sexually abused themselves. Is it karma? Yes, of course, it's karma. But a situation like that is one of those that's very, very simple. You could say, well, yes, okay, so I brought about this energy of abuse, this energy of exploitation, this energy of taking advantage of another, using my power over another, taking away someone else's power, taking away someone else's freedom, stomping on someone's rights, stomping on their humanity. Naturally that's going to happen to me. And in this case, it happened in a very, very specific mirror image type of way. The person who asked the question had sexually abused someone else, and a few years later, they were sexually abused themselves. A lot of times, though, karma isn't quite so cut and dry. So a more common example might be, staying with the beginning of the story, the questioner takes advantage of someone, sexually abuses someone, engages in behavior that is amoral, wrong, abusive, exploitive, violating of another, violating all of our values and ethics, the yamas, the niyamas. But it doesn't necessarily mean that they are going to experience the exact same thing in the exact same way a few years later. The law of karma sometimes works in more subtle ways. I plant seeds of harm, seeds of abuse, seeds of violation well, that's going to grow in the garden of my life. And it may not necessarily manifest in coming back and hitting me in exactly the way that I hit someone else. But it's going to come back. It's absolutely going to come back. In the same way that if you plant an apple seed, you can be pretty sure that at some point in the future you're going to get an apple tree. But what's important when we think about karma is, on the one hand, it provides a very interesting and very helpful explanation. Why did this happen? Well, it happened because of something I did in the past. Here's what I have today. Why? Well, because of something from the past. Whether it was 5 minutes ago, I have a stomach ache now. Well, 5 minutes ago, if I ate 15 boxes of, milk duds, I'd have a stomach ache. But it could have also been something from years and years ago. Maybe the stomach ache is due to anxiety, and maybe the anxiety is a product of a life pattern that began with something that happened to me or something I did many years ago. So there's a lot of ways that karma works in our life. Sometimes immediately. Eat too many milk duds, end up with a stomach ache. Sometimes a little bit more subtle. Sometimes it's like a rushing river that sweeps you up and off your feet immediately. Sometimes it's more like a very slowly kind of meandering stream. You don't realize you're wet until much later, because it's slow and it's gentle. So karma serves, thinking about and understanding karma serves several purposes. One, it gives us explanations. It gives us a way of understanding, why am I in this boat today? What did I do, or what situation was there in my past, recent past, medium past, long time ago past, that could have led to this moment? And usually it's a mix of all of them, the immediate, the kind of medium long term ago, the long term ago. But it also helps us to understand how to move forward in the future. Because I know, for example, that what I have now is due to the past. How do I then change my future? So if you do something wrong, again, going back to the questioner, the person who asked this question had sexually abused someone else. So after they do that, after they engage in a behavior that they know is wrong, that they know is abusive and violating and harmful to another, well, one way is you just wait for karma to catch up with you, not knowing exactly when or where or how, but just kind of like in the movies, that music that plays, and okay, something's going to come. You don't know exactly from where, you don't know exactly what it's going to be, but you know that music is playing, something's going to come. But another much more proactive way is to figure out what you can do to mitigate that. To know I've just set off a karmic reaction that is not going to be pleasant when it comes back and bites me in the rear end. What can I do? What can I do to mitigate that? We cannot, as the expression says, put an arrow back in the bow. The arrow that you've let go from the bow is gone. But what can I do to mitigate that? What good work can I do? What spiritual work can I do for true deep repentance and awareness, but also for true deep transformation? Because the law of karma is not about punishment. It's not, you've been bad, let me punish you. It's, you've been ignorant. In that ignorance, you have committed sin. that sin is going to come back. But the ultimate goal of the universe is not to punish people so they can get their due. The ultimate goal of the universe is that we should wake up. We should know the truth of who we are. And when you engage in behaviors that violate another, that harm another, that abuse another, when you engage in behaviors that are about power and lust and greed, you're living on the most superficial level of existence. You're living so identified with your story, with your body, with the chemical and electrical behaviors and patterns in the body. You're living as a puppet, really, where just chemistry and electricity and patterns are kind of pulling the strings, and you're this puppet. And so the very best way to mitigate that is to engage in such deep spiritual practice that there's never even the possibility that such an act could ever come from you again. There's never even the possibility that you could lose yourself in such a way again. Ultimately, that is the awareness that the universe wants you to have. To know so fully, so completely, the wholeness and the fullness and the perfection and the divinity of yourself. That the idea of harming yourself or yourself in another body is inconceivable. Through what you eat, through what you buy, through what you wear, through what you say, through how you live, through what you do, you become a very beautiful asset to creation. So don't wait around for karma to come back and bite you. When you know you've done something wrong, yes, make amends to whatever extent you can. Apologize to the person you've harmed as fully, as deeply, as sincerely as you can. But also recognize that your greatest responsibility now is to dispel whatever ignorance it was that led you to do that in the first place.
This is OTR-FM, part of the IOM radio network.
OMTimes Magazine is one of the leading online content providers of positivity, wellness, and personal empowerment. A philanthropic organization, their net proceeds are funneled to support worldwide charity initiatives via Humanity Healing International. Through their commitment to creating community and providing conscious content, they aspire to uplift humanity on a global scale. OMTimes, co-creating a more conscious lifestyle.
Do you have time to read that inspiring book or that blog post you've been meaning to get to? In your busy world, how do you improve yourself and keep your life going? I'm Lisa Kay, and my Between Heaven and Earth radio show can transform your life just by listening. Be uplifted with inspiring topics, positive stories, and ideas that really work. Between Heaven and Earth Radio is conscious living for your soul, every Wednesday at 4 p.m. Eastern Time.
Baldwin with People for the Ethical Treatment of Animals. I grew up loving circuses and other traveling animal shows, but it never occurred to me what life might be like for the animals. Training wild animals to do things they don't understand takes force. Routine discipline with a hook or whip with the heel of a boot shows the animal exactly who's the boss. Don't patronize animal acts. Please contact People for the Ethical Treatment of Animals.
757-622-PETA.
Welcome back. This is Sadhvi Bhagawati Saraswati with inspiration and transformation.
Well, I'm always in favor of expressing yourself. So in this case, as the questioner asks, I love my parents, but I can't express it to them because they had an agenda for me. They wanted some things from me, and I failed them. So what does that mean? What it means is I feel shameful. They wanted something from me. I couldn't do it. I failed. The questioner also said I cheated. So not only did I fail in what they wanted from me, but I also failed myself as a human being of integrity. I cheated and I failed. It's one thing to cheat and win. It's another thing to cheat and fail. In either case, the cheating stings you and harms you and brings the negative karmic fruit. But to cheat and fail is kind of this double whammy of shame. And what shame does is it becomes so pervasive. Shame doesn't just say, you were not good in math. Parents maybe, I don't know what the agenda was, the question didn't mention it, but let's say, for example, that the parents had an agenda, that you would be a scientist or a doctor or an engineer, something that required you to learn math. And let's just say you couldn't do it, and you cheated. You looked over at your friend's paper, you did something to cheat, but still you failed. Shame tells you that not only did you fail math, but you're a failure of a human being. And that's why you can't express yourself, because shame keeps us from even being able to look up and see people in the eye. It makes us feel that who we are as a being, every aspect of us, pervasively, is wrong, is bad. And shame also a lot of times has not only a sense of pervasiveness in space, like all of me is bad, but it also tends to have a pervasiveness in time. I always have been bad. I always will be bad. There is nothing redeemable about me as a being. And that's where it's so important, no matter how hard it is, to pull yourself out of that mental framework, out of the framework that says you don't deserve to hold your head up. You can't tell them that you love them because, look, you failed. Now, I don't know what type of parents you have, because parents are humans, and humans are all different. Ideally, in a perfect world, I would be able to tell you, don't worry, sweetheart. Your parents are going to say they love you anyway. Your parents are going to support you anyway. Yes, they had an agenda, you couldn't do it. Don't worry. Nonetheless, they're going to support you. But I don't know that. Because there's a lot of people in the world who are parents, but who are still so stuck in their own dramas, who are still so stuck in their own stories and their own challenges and their own fears and their own egos and their own anger and their own illusions and ignorance, that they cannot say that. There are parents who need you to behave a certain way, to look a certain way, to dress a certain way, to be a certain way, for them to feel okay. I wish that in the same way we had to take a test to drive a car, right? I mean, you have to take a test to drive a car because they understand that a car has the possibility of killing other people. If you drive it incorrectly, you kill people. You kill yourself, you kill others. So you have to take a test. You have to pass a test. You have to prove that you know how to drive a car. But sadly, there's no test you have to take to become a parent. If I were in charge of the universe, I would make there be a test that parents had to take. Some level of personal awareness, some level of personal introspection that would enable them not to be perfect by any means, not to be enlightened or awakened. We wouldn't set the bar very high. But simply parents who had the ability to understand this child is not here to help my social standing in society. This child is not here to do the things that I wanted to do in life and I couldn't, so I'm going to make my child do them for me. My child is not here as an extension, a physical extension of me, to be exactly the way that I want them to be. They're not a dress-up doll. But there isn't that test. So I'm not able to sadly tell you exactly what your parents are going to say. But what I would say is, whatever they say, it doesn't matter. Because at some point in all of our lives, we reach a point where we realize our parents did the very best they could. They did the best that they could with the toolbox that they had. Some parents have very full toolboxes, full of patience and compassion, understanding, personal grounding, some spirituality. And then they have those tools to parent with. But some parents don't have those tools. Their toolbox is full only with fear and anger, impatience, frustration, ignorance. And so that's what they parent with. But even they are doing the best that they can with their toolboxes. And there comes a point in every one of our life, regardless of how full or how empty our parents' toolboxes were, at which point we need to run our lives. At which point we need to stop saying, I am this way because my mom, or I am this way because my dad. In which we are able to say, I know that I deserve my space on planet Earth. I know that I am full, I am whole, I am complete, I am perfect, I am divine, regardless of what they've told me. I know that I am here on Earth for a beautiful divine purpose, regardless of how stupid and worthless they may have told me that I was. I know that. Because the truth, the capital T truth, comes from God, not the mouth of an exasperated, scared, confused parent. And so we forgive them. We forgive them. And we grow up. And we stop looking down and stop feeling like we can't hold our heads up and stop feeling full of shame. Just because they had an agenda for us, created out of whatever created their agenda. Maybe you weren't able to fulfill it. But are you able to fulfill God's agenda for you? God isn't worried about what your career is going to be or what score you're going to get on a math test. Are you able to be the fullest, the truest, the most awake, alive, grounded, anchored, courageous, connected you on Earth? That's your only core job. Can you do that? Hold your head up. Tell them you love them. Even if what you get in response is you are worthless, you're a failure, you've embarrassed us, you've disappointed us. Your truth is that you love them. So tell them. Make sure to tell them. Speak your truth. And if they can't hear it, it's their loss. And if you can't say it to them physically, close your eyes. Sit in your mandir, close your eyes and just tell them there, I love you, Mom, I love you, Dad. I'm sorry you can't see me for the perfection that I am. But know that your calling on earth is to be the most sincere, most true, most anchored and grounded tool, instrument in the divine's hands that you can be. Sometimes it aligns with our parents' agenda. Sometimes it doesn't. But that's the nature of the universe. But your truth of love is something you should absolutely express. Let go of the shame. There is nothing to feel shameful about.
This is OTR-FM, part of the IOM radio network.
OMTimes magazine is one of the leading online content providers of positivity, wellness, and personal empowerment. A philanthropic organization, their net proceeds are funneled to support worldwide charity initiatives via Humanity Healing International. Through their commitment to creating community and providing conscious content, they aspire to uplift humanity on a global scale. OMTimes, co-creating a more conscious lifestyle.
Do you have time to read that inspiring book or that blog post you've been meaning to get to? In your busy world, how do you improve yourself and keep your life going? I'm Lisa Kay, and my Between Heaven and Earth radio show can transform your life just by listening. Be uplifted with inspiring topics, positive stories, and ideas that really work. Between Heaven and Earth radio is conscious living for your soul, every Wednesday at 4 p.m. Eastern Time.
Baldwin with People for the Ethical Treatment of Animals. I grew up loving circuses and other traveling animal shows, but it never occurred to me what life might be like for the animals. Training wild animals to do things they don't understand takes force. Routine discipline with a hook or whip with the heel of a boot shows the animal exactly who's the boss. Don't patronize animal acts. Please contact People for the Ethical Treatment of Animals.
757-622-PETA.
Welcome back. This is Sadhvi Bhagawati Saraswati with inspiration and transformation.
The thoughts in our mind, these negative thoughts that keep us from being in peace, it's not so much about getting over them in terms of the way that a plate of food gets over, as in you eat it and you keep eating and whether you like it or not, but eventually you finish it and it's over. Or you go through your years of school and you keep studying and keep working hard and eventually it's over. Thoughts don't get over like that. It's much more a matter of changing the way that the mind works. Don't think that you're actually just going to be able to think so many thoughts eventually that you'll just be done. Thoughts breed thoughts. They keep having more and more thoughts. Desires breed desires. Thoughts breed thoughts. Doubts breed doubts. The only way to have that peace is to change the nature of the way that the brain works. And so, for me, one of the ways that I like to think about it is if you think about lying on your back on a beautiful sunny day, and there's a blue sky, and you're looking up at the sky, and every once in a while there's a wispy white cloud that blows across the sky. And maybe they're frequent. Maybe it's a windy day and one cloud after another keeps blowing across the sky. Well, there's two ways of dealing with those clouds. Way number one. Now remember, you're lying on your back, you're looking up at the sky. The sky is blue. The clouds are coming by. So option one is as a cloud comes into your field of vision over here, you go like this. And you follow that cloud all the way through the sky. You keep following it and following it and following it until it disappears. And then another one, and you follow that one, and you spend your whole day just doing that. That's option one. That's what most of us do. Option two, you don't move your head or your eyes at all. You stay focused, and you stay focused on the blue sky. And sure, every once in a while, across that blue sky, a cloud goes. But you don't hook your awareness into the thought. You don't follow that cloud across the sky. You stay focused on the blueness of the sky. And that's option two, and that's the way to deal with the mind, is when a thought comes, what most of us do is we grab onto it. So I'll give you an example. Let's say you're meditating. Your eyes are closed and you are focusing on your breath. You're watching the breath. And maybe you're chanting the So-Hum mantra. The awareness is fully in your breath. And then suddenly you notice a smell. A smell of blueberry muffins. Okay? Now what most of us do is we hook that thought into the smell. And the mind goes, oh, blueberry muffins. God, I remember the blueberry muffins that I had in that bakery, in that cute little store. God, I remember that little cute bakery in New York when we were visiting New York, and every morning they had those hot blueberries. God, I remember those muffins. They were so good. That was really a fun trip that I took when we went to visit New York. I wonder what happened to Lisa, the friend of mine who I traveled to New York with. God, I haven't talked to her in ages. I really should call Lisa. Oh, no, now I remember. That's right, she stole my boyfriend. I will never talk to Lisa again. I forgot. I was so angry at her. But you know what? He was really kind of a rotten scoundrel also. He went off with her. Now, where'd my meditation go? What happened to my breath? What happened to my So-Hum mantra? Right? One smell of blueberry muffins. Just a smell, that was it. A simple smell. Suddenly, I'm on the streets of New York on a vacation decades ago. A friend who ran off with a lousy boyfriend I had. Meditation is gone because I've hooked my thought into every thought that comes. I've hooked my mind, my attention, into every thought that comes. Instead, you go like this. We try option two now. You're meditating. You're aware of the breath. Suddenly there's a smell of blueberry muffins. And the mind goes, blueberry muffins. And you're just about to jump on that magic carpet of blueberry muffins when suddenly you remember, I'm meditating. And you bring the awareness back to the breath. You're with the breath, you're with the mantra, Maybe a few moments later, now the smell of coffee comes. And again, you have the choice. Are you going to allow the mind to hook into the smell of coffee and some vacation in, Paris, whenever it was, when you sat on, the banks of the Seine River, drinking a cappuccino, watching the boats? Or are you just going to bring the mind back? My breath. I'm meditating. My breath. So this is how the mind plays. This is how the thoughts play. And that's why it's never about my thoughts getting over. They're going to keep coming. It's about your very conscious focus, choice that says either I'm going to hook my attention into every thought and I'm going to follow it wherever it takes me. Foreign countries, relationships of decades past. Or I'm simply going to bring the awareness back to the breath. Back to the mantra. Like bringing the eyes back to the blue sky rather than hooking them into the clouds as they go by. And this is true whether they're random thoughts or whether they're negative thoughts, as the question said. Whatever kind of thoughts. It's the same. Now, negative thoughts, though, have a particular quality to them because negative thoughts are infused with a sense of judgment. And so negative thoughts are kind of a double whammy spiritually. They distract us. They hijack our attention. So spiritually, they prevent us from staying grounded and staying focused, staying meditative. But they also harm us emotionally because those are the thoughts that are constantly telling you, you're stupid, you're worthless, you're nothing, or that's judging others, creating distance and separation between you and others. And of course, psychologically, we always say that which you judge the most about another being is that which you really need to work on in yourself. So that judgment of another anyway is a reflection of the self. When negative thoughts come, the way to deal with them is exactly the same way as you deal with any thought, which is just bring the mind back. Just bring it back. Refuse to jump on that vehicle. You know, I always say our thoughts are vehicles, tickets to vehicles that take you someplace. An airplane, a train, a car. But they're going to destinations that usually you don't want to go to. So the negative thought is a ticket onto a plane or a train or a bus to misery. Now you've jumped on it God knows how many times in your life. You know where it ends up. Next time that thought comes, just say, thanks but no thanks. I don't want to get on this. And I know a lot of people say, well, that's easier than it sounds, but the truth is we do it all the time. Imagine you're sitting at an airport, you're at the gate, you're a little early for your flight, and before your flight comes, there's another plane, another flight. Same gate, but not your flight yet. Do you get on the plane just because it's there and you're there? Even though it's not going where you want to go? Of course not. You're standing on a train platform. A train comes by, it's not your train. But you don't get on it just because it's there. You don't say, well, I couldn't help it. I was just standing there and the train came by, or would I throw a jump card and I had to get on it? We understand this is not my train. I'll wait. In the same way, when these negative thoughts come, just recognize this is not my train. I do not want to jump on this. I will not jump on this. I know where this is going. And just envision yourself literally standing there on a train platform going, bye, bye. You know, think about it visually, play with it, have fun with yourself. Don't take yourself so seriously, especially the emotional nonsense that goes on in our minds. Just play with it. Some negative thought comes either about yourself or about others. Just, bye. You're not my train. Or as my Guru Puja Swamiji says, it's like junk mail. You know, you open your email inbox, and along with the emails that you want, inevitably there's a whole bunch of junk mail. Now there tends to be good filters, but when he started giving this teaching, it was before our email services had the ability of filtering out spam. And you'd open up your email and it would be full of all kinds of stuff, offering to help you, improve the size and shape of various body parts and whatnot. But you never got offended. You never read the subject of a junk mail and felt like, oh my God, how could somebody suggest that I should, increase the size of that body part, or I don't even have that body part. How dare they? Never ruined your day. Because you knew it was just junk mail, not meant for you. Just spam being automatically sent out by some computer hacker sitting somewhere in the world sending out this junk. Well, there's parts of the mind that just do that. So just tell them bye. Or imagine yourself hitting delete to the junk mail that comes. You've got to take charge of the mind. Don't expect that the thoughts are just going to stop coming. But you have the control. The mind is yours. The voice in your head when you are conscious is yours. When you're not conscious, then it's programming. But when you are conscious, the voice in your head is yours. If I say to you right now, in your own mind, count to 10. That voice counting to 10 in your mind right now is yours. You have consciously done it. In the same way, regain conscious control of your mind. If it's full of all kinds of subconscious thoughts, just make a commitment to be more conscious. That patterning can only happen when you're checked out. Autopilot only takes over a flight when the pilot is no longer in control. In the same way in your mind, the subconscious programming only takes over when your conscious pilot is asleep at the wheel. So stay conscious, stay mindful, stay aware, and you'll be able to have control over those thoughts.
This brings to a close this hour of inspiration and transformation. Thank you so much for joining me. I'm so glad to be together with you all each week, and I look forward to being together again next Thursday, same time, on OMTimes Radio.